all this is about making someone happy. If I had a body shop, I deal with someone's problems all the time. If you have a hot rod shop, you deal with someone's dreams all the time. My wife's in there. My daughter just graduated, so she's there. I mean, it's crazy how fun it is and nice it is, and everybody works together. You know, some people are like, oh, how's that working with your wife? She gets shit done. The car's called Medusa. Steve had this guy, he goes, I'm gonna have an artist make these headers. And we're trying to think of a name for the car. This dude just walked in, he goes, oh man, that car looks like Medusa with the snake hair. I said, well, it's a deuce. And then the way he spelled it, he's like, it's made USA.
Welcome to Oil and Whiskey, an Ironclad original. Today's guest is in-person, world-famous, classic custom car restorer, Bo Vescio.
How you doing?
Good, man. Thanks for coming up. Is that the right pronunciation?
Beforehand.
Yeah, there was a little debate 20 minutes ago.
Vescio. Yeah.
I was going with the
Like
C.
an SH.
I was going with the C was going to be silent. It was just Vesio.
You could do it a couple different ways.
Okay.
When I was a kid, when I was born, whatever, you go to the doctor. My mom was like one of the first doctor's appointments. She goes, oh yeah, Miss Vescio and Boo.
And when I was a kid, it was just shithead. It was easy.
Yeah.
Building cars and trucks since 2000 at their shop outside of Minneapolis, Minnesota. Not far, 4 or 5?
Yeah, like 6 hours.
6 hours. Yeah, it was close. 5+. You can check out Vescio Customs at Vescio Customs on Instagram. Bo, welcome to Oil and Whiskey.
All right. Yeah, and thanks for having on.
Just like most of the best in-person guests, you brought something special.
Yeah. I like it said, I got a customer who owns a liquor store in Minneapolis. It's South Lindale Liquor. Been around a long time. He just built a new building, but his thing is these single barrel whiskeys and bourbons and all that. So I said, hey, I'm going to go on this podcast with these guys, and that's what they do. I said, I don't know, but I got to bring them something cool. So he goes, oh, okay, I'll look. I'll get you something good that they haven't seen. So.
Yeah, he did a job there.
Yeah.
Michter's 10 is no joke. That's a hell of a good bottle.
Yeah,
I
he was
appreciate
pretty.
that.
He's got a little.
Well, enough looking at it.
Let's drink it.
Yeah, kick it in there.
This is like one of those bottles I have at home, and I'm reluctant to open it because I know it's so damn good.
Yeah. Well, now we have to. Let's hear it.
Oh, man. So what you been doing? Building more Mercedes?
Yeah, we're still working on that Mercedes. I'm waiting on a motor. Otherwise, we're it's kind of on hold. We got to finish off engine bay. It's all in.
What motor are you putting
primer. It's a Mast is building us an LS. It's a pretty straightforward, no blowers or nothing. But so I'm just running a little behind getting that in and finish fitting things up and get into paint.
Oh, man, that smells good. It's got a nose on it, as they say.
I'll have to learn the lingo now.
Josh just makes shit up as he goes.
Shit I picked up on YouTube.
I watched a lot of James Bond when I was a kid, so I'm a dirty martini guy.
Dirty martini.
Is it a dirty martini with gin, like a traditional martini, or you go with vodka? Experiment with those a little bit. That's the classic way to make that cocktail.
Yeah. Dirty's just the olive?
Yeah.
The olive is what makes it dirty?
Yeah.
Olive juice.
Filthy dirty, little dirty.
Dirty.
Have a lot of them, and then you see all the different, your good steakhouse that'll make it, and then you get blue cheese olives, and
you just keep them coming.
They're pretty good. They come in that glass. That's kind of I had a sister-in-law who was like, "Oh, it's kind of a girly drink."
It's a martini glass.
It's just
I still have a sip.
Straight booze.
Yeah, she's like, "Oh, it's like gasoline."
Yeah, the martini glass has got a little bit of a bad rap. Like you order a Manhattan, they bring it out in a martini glass too, and people are like, "Look at that fluffy drink."
Anything with the stem generally has become more effeminate, which is not. It shouldn't be that way.
No,
if you're really good, you can custom order. You give me that in a low ball or this or that.
Yeah, I feel like it just wouldn't be the same. That's the only appeal to me. Maybe I'm a little fruity. That Like the only reason I would drink, I shouldn't have said that because I know where this is going.
Umbrella on there.
Just drinking the martini. It's like the classic, classic
I'll
guy.
just leave.
Yeah, I might just get a pass. I get a pass on that.
It's too much of a softball.
You get a pass. Yeah, it's too much.
Too easy.
Yeah, and I couldn't think anything PC enough that would be a dig.
Yeah, you got to be careful.
I'll start off with a little cheers.
Yeah, cheers.
Thank you
Thanks
for
for
coming out and bringing some good stuff.
Alrighty.
Where'd you park your truck in the driveway?
I parked it I drove my Toyota, not so big, but I did
it's-
pull in and there was a big white truck with a trailer, and I
And
thought,
maybe park across the
I
street.
said, that dude's going to
Kevin's
be in
off this
trouble.
week.
Yeah. To fill everybody in. Last time Bo was here picking up a chassis, we gave him a little present.
Something that lasts forever.
Enhance the fender, I think.
We had a truck driver that tried to shove the 48-foot trailer back down through the alley in a, what would you say, a 3-foot wide gap.
I don't think you got the
8 foot
truck
wide.
without
He
the
was
trailer
doing
in
pretty
there.
good until I literally was like right in front of the truck, and I was like, hey, I'll move my...
Yeah, we watched it on the security camera. We went back afterwards.
Yeah.
Yeah, he wasn't close.
No.
Yeah, he was.
8 foot wide trailer, 6.5 foot wide gap. Is that where we're going with there?
He was trying. I knew it when I parked there too. I'm like, God, there's nowhere to park here. And last time we were out here getting a frame, we did park across the street, but it was raining
probably
and
the best
whatever.
thing
And,
from
It's a high traffic area.
So coincidentally, the same day, another customer went to pick up a chassis at the other shop and backed into the overhead door there.
oh,
Yeah, so we got paid back, kind of.
get them.
Just every man for
Hey,
themselves. right
that's
here.
part of it.
The truck driver thing, they're like, what is the harm in just walking like 10 feet and being like, hey man, would you mind just moving your truck? I find that it's constant.
Because you're a truck driver, not a truck walker.
Right,
Yeah.
we've seen that. We've seen that a lot. Snap-on dude just blasted Phil's truck. Again, it was simple. Hey man, would you mind moving that truck? It's like you knew it was there. He was just trying to thread the needle.
They think they can do it.
Yeah.
The short box.
Welding supply guy.
Yeah, that guy that has to back all the way through. But then just sometimes it's a delivery, so the guy's going to whip in here and then back down the loading dock. But then you get a couple of them that are just using as a Yui, and they whip through, and there'll be a truck that we're unloading steel. There'll be like 3 customers trying to park, and they're gonna shoot the gap, and not their problem.
Shouldn't have been standing there.
Close your eyes and
I
go.
haven't had that opportunity. That was like one of my favorite pastimes was when you're getting ready to leave because we've got that kind of U driveway. You got to in and out.
Blocking
And
the
we
Uis.
get people turning around constantly.
Oh,
So it's
sure.
always, and they look at you like you're an asshole. Like,
Yeah.
I'm like, it's my fucking building. And I'm backing out. And then they're like, so then I make it a point to like, I'll go forward and then back up and then forward a little bit back, get out of the car, like look at the tire for a minute, like, then pull my phone out. And then they're going fucking crazy because they can't even, God forbid, they put it in reverse and then go back out the way they came in. But
No, because then they couldn't get into Starbucks through the other direction.
right.
Oh, you got to have your Starbucks.
Yeah, it's a one-way entrance the wrong way. and
Oh, yeah.
It just destroys traffic.
It's the little things in life, you know. You get enjoyment out of this.
As usual, we're hitting some fucking killer topics.
Oh yeah, this is
Well, let's get into something important, man. Let's well, the standout is the Mercedes, what you got going on. At least to me, that one hits home.
Yeah.
I mean, I
So
dig those little guys.
yeah,
looks rad.
The pig, the 69. So, yeah, we had the guy who owns that, owns a company, Reviva Engines. So he builds motors, and his dad had one of those, and he was into the red pig AMG stuff. So, so he was building this motor. They were building UPS truck motors, like for the whole country, like 6,000 motors a year.
Damn.
So they're good at it. And then this was a special. So it's,
those UPS drivers take care of the engines,
Oh,
though, so
yeah.
they baby them.
I mean, they had,
That's why they
he's
built
like, UPS
6,000 a
has their
year.
own part number for spark plug wires. And there's a lot of engineering in those trucks. You think they did a lot of diesel stuff, but then they were doing that. So he had just tons of them. So we had that. Well, it was out in Columbus. You guys had the blue Camaro out there, and he's been riding that thing hard ever since. He hadn't had to do a thing to that motor, and we just got it back. He kind of retired it from racing, And we just cleaned up all the road rash and repainted it and cleaned it up. And now he's going to, take it to dinner. It's a little loud, but yeah, it's, that was a cool idea. He's like, I want to do this red pig. And if you look up that red pig, that's that 74 that kind of like AMG's first race car, they put the big 6.3 limo motor in it. And then,
it's almost got a little bit of no disrespect to what you did, but it's almost got a little bit of the family truckster thing going on with the front headlight configuration.
Oh yeah.
It's kind of like, turn them sideways. We need two of them in there. They won't fit. Stand them up.
And the old red pig had like no front bumper, this rally race. They flared back then it was 15-inch wheels. So we put the big wheels and we were like, well, let's make it a nice show car. We won't do any stickers and all that stuff. And it was, well received. We got the fuel curve with that. And then we had it out at SEMA at the 3M booth, which was perfect because of the color with the big 3M logo up there.
Who took this video down here? Autopolia.
He needs to change
sounds
that.
Italian.
He needs to move the LA off of it because it does. When you look at that, I've noticed, like even on the YouTube, it's like Autotopolia.
He's going to love this.
Yeah.
Sean's going to love your.
It's just a little advice, Sean. Space. Autotopia.
We're giving Sean some shit because Autotopia LA, if in case you don't know. What a fucking phenomenal channel he's got. So we got to give him a little shit because he took this video. That's a shout out.
That's a
real shout out for me.
Yeah, I think that's at SEMA.
I think it's cool.
Yeah, the optimal deal.
Yeah, it seems like that just continues to be the trend, right? Like people constantly looking for something that's just out of the norm.
Right. It gets hard too, though. Yeah, so then that was at SEMA. That's a different time at SEMA, but before it was in the one booth. And this guy called, actually he's from Chicago. He's a trucking company or something, but he has a 77 and he's like, oh, I've got this. It was painted in a storage container, all tore apart, but he goes, but that's what I want. And it had like the old chrome, like hammer wheels from the 90s.
That's the wheels it needed to have. Yeah. That's the ones Pippin put on it.
So this time, then we thought, okay, we'll get a Roadster shop frame for this. So Marshall hauled that down for you guys to scan it up. And then I think we picked it up. And that same thing, just, cutting the snot out of it, got rid of all the ribs on the bottom. Marshall made that whole valance in the front there. Now we're working on the grill. It's a little bit further than that right there, kind of just waiting on the motor so we can finish off in the engine and get cooking. But that's a cool little car. The other one, just a big 4-door, which at first you're like, what can we do here to make this neat? But because it's that big 4-door, it makes it neat. So
it's kind of cool.
I think there's going to be so much more of this. There's so many ones to tap into.
Oh yeah.
And doing it the way we do it, the industry, I'm saying we, is the way to fuck with any of these cars because you're not going to just like mildly restore it because I'm sure as you've disassembled a couple of these, like the wiring and stuff and the door panel.
I don't want anything to do with that.
Let's just yank it all out, put an American Auto wire in it. And let's just make it a hot rod. And
that's we did years ago, this guy came in, he goes, my buddy wants this car and they're really expensive to find, but I bet you could just make one. I'm like, well, what is it? It's the 57 BMW 507. It's like a little roadster.
Okay.
Familiar with that one.
They're hard. It's like you look for one and it's, $500,000 for a Roachy,
what's that look like?
Restoration. And what we did, you'll see it when you bring it up, but I'm like, well, let me just see what it is and maybe we can modify something to kind of look like. And it was
oh yeah, I've seen this. This is a beautiful car.
So we got a 59 MGA.
Okay.
And then did the nose treatment and
The coupe is fucking cool.
made we had somebody make the little side grill things. It looked pretty close to that.
Yeah.
And we had to put a Vortec V6 out of a like a 90s truck, Chevy truck. I mean, it just needed to kind of look like it. It's a little smaller than what the real BMW is. But when we did that car and we did the big Mercedes, the Red Pig, you get calls from Germany or you get calls from all over, and these guys they're like, well, I'd like to do something like that. I'd like a LS swap. And I said, well, we're basically set
a German accent.
Yeah, it was almost like Indian or something. Yeah.
Das swaps, that's LS motor.
So it's like, well, we lay this motor in here and then to build the car around it. It's not a swap. I remember when we went down to Texas to Good Guys with that one, and the guy said, now everybody sees your car on Instagram before you get there.
Yeah.
So they're like, oh, I'm going to give that car an award. I just got to make sure it's real. And we got there and these guys come running over and they're like, oh yeah, that looks good. I just wanted to make sure it wasn't some turd that is got sheetrock screws holding the ECU on the firewall, and a coat hanger.
There's some nice cars that have done that way. Right?
Oh yeah. So
where does the line get drawn? You think you say so you took an MG and converted it to look like BMW, but like you can do that kind of stuff with a Fiero, right? You can make a Fiero look like anything.
Actually, I just saw a Fiero.
But at the end of the day,
on the side of some building on the way down here.
And I'm not doing myself any favors because I'm a little bit of a Fiero aficionado, behind
the Lambo
doors.
Fiero.
Kind of goes in line with this earlier.
You can convert it
Painting quite the picture.
to anything you want, but it's still a Fiero. When you're taking an MG and you're at the end of the day,
So many softballs. I can't.
did you pull it off, or is it still an MG? Is my question.
It looked pretty. I don't even have any pictures. I don't know if you put my name in there and put BMW 507 from Vescio's, if it would come up there. I don't know. It was pretty close, but it was, this guy's budget wasn't to like, he's like, well, these cars are $1 million. I'm like, well, it costs you $1 million to
build it.
like hand build a whole car. But it was pretty, you don't see these a lot. So it was kind of trickery. It's a white one. I don't see it up there, but
I think what you're saying is you can start with a little less loved or cherished vehicles and make them into something.
That's a question.
Yeah.
I'm not making a statement. I don't know,
But that was another one where someone called us
your
from,
case.
yeah, someone called us from somewhere in the world and they're like, oh, you can do that? I said, well, do what? You can, put a different name badge on a car. And like in some countries, you can't do that. You can't take a BMW and put, say Chevrolet on it or whatever. I mean,
for us, so nobody's like, we fly under the radar.
Oh,
I feel like because nobody's really paying attention to what we're doing. So I think we take some liberties in the hot rod industry of branding.
Oh,
things.
sure.
I mean, throwing tires, names on tires,
It's freedom.
different emblems.
We're free.
All it's going to take is that one executive that's like a little in tune that's going to get a chip on his shoulder and ruin it for the whole industry.
Yeah.
Somebody's going to get the shit sued out of him and
it's
game over.
It's
no more shaving sidewalls, no more making emblems. It's
not pompously, but it's art. I mean, you're recreating, you're doing a nod and throwback to history and stuff that created. I mean, so it's open.
Yeah. Well, Mercedes didn't feel that way with those gull wings, though.
Well, no, they didn't.
There were some
they didn't.
wrist slaps on those.
Ferrari doesn't like when you mess with their cars either.
Yeah.
That's a cease and desist letter.
Ferrari is now opening up a lot of that now. They're getting more accepting of the modifications of the stuff.
What did they think of that Testarossa that was
they don't like you fucking with the emblem. That's still a hard no. But there's been so many famous YouTubers that have customized Ferraris, and at the early stage they got a lot of cease and desist, and then Ferrari got such a backlash from the community of being like it was becoming negative. So then now they're kind of embracing it and they're accepting of some of this stuff and even doing some collaborations with some people on.
What about the Trucksterossa Ferraris from the
that was a game
little
changer.
Mazda with the
I
truck
think there were
kid
so
on it.
many of them that they couldn't keep up with it. The legal
Lawyers
team
were
couldn't-
busy.
Yeah.
I actually did
Yeah.
put those on for a guy back.
Did you
in-
really?
Yeah, and back at my dad's house,
Mazda
But-
B2200s.
Yeah. That was one of the first things I did was my buddy's, B2200, and we were doing. So when I was 19 and just messing around with stuff in the backyard or whatever, but I was 19, my senior year, just after high school, I had testicular cancer. And it was like,
Wow.
At
like one
19?
day, one day I went to the doc. I had some stuff going on, and one day I went to the doctor, and I was working at a dealership, Toyota dealership, changing oil and doing all that stuff. And I went to the doctor and then didn't go back for like a year, like heavy duty, cut this out, chemotherapy,
Holy shit.
all this stuff. So so I went through all that and then came out, flying colors. All good. That's a very common cancer for that age group or whatever.
I never knew that for 19. At 19, if like there was something wrong going on down there, you're at that age, you're like, oh, fuck, I shouldn't have hooked up with that chick. You're like, no, I shouldn't have fucking done it. And you don't say it could be bad because
Right.
you can't keep that to yourself.
Yeah, it's not quite that deal, but when you're 19, you also don't go, hey, check this out.
Yeah,
What do you think of
right,
that?
get this thing- yeah.
I mean, you do it to your buddies, but not to your doctor.
They're like, oh, dude.
So I waited too long, whatever.
Yeah.
But long story short, so you get through all that, but that's what triggered me into doing what I want to do. You're like, okay, I know I've gone through this whole scare and this, so I'm like, okay, well, I just survived cancer, so I might as well go be a body man and paint cars.
Yeah.
Which is,
because if that didn't kill me, I'll find something else that will.
So that's kind of what pushed me that direction. And then I just started, because otherwise I was, changing oil, and I wasn't going to college. I was, not sure what I would do, but that unfortunate thing triggered me into a direction. And then, then I started doing stuff at home. I had we lived in Minneapolis, had this little garage, and my one buddy I grew up with, we were little kids, and then he had this truck, and back then there was no wheels. You got like those steel wagon wheels, directionals that were all the same direction, and
Westerns or ultras or elites,
but then we were doing, I have mini truck magazines, so I'm painting the lime colors or chartreuse, and then doing the bubble paint jobs, and people are like, we go to a little car show in Minnesota, and they're like, is that from LA? And I'm like, but that's what we're reading those magazines and doing that. And
Did you do any bowling ball? Saran wrap?
I didn't do that.
Any water droplets?
No, I just did these big, but I was like, all that stuff came later.
Yeah.
This was almost before the bowling ball. And then later there was a shop that just did a ton of those.
What's the bowling ball?
So you do saran wrap, you do a base, and then you do
There's
a
like
candy.
a marbleizer.
Marbleizer.
And you put the saran wrap
saran
down
wrap
there.
over it, and it gives you your effect. Pull the saran wrap off, and then you start
So
clicking.
never heard it called the bowling ball.
Gives it the effect of looking like a bowling ball.
Yeah,
Yes.
like the
Yeah,
like
like
the
that,
swirly. Well, they call it. What else do they call it? But or marbleizer. It looks like marble. But
in the South, it was all I got to have that bowling ball.
oh
And you
yeah,
put that bowling ball.
Well, and there was a shop like that.
It's a sheltered life up here. My brother.
He's like a bowling ball. But this little garage was, and if I was going to do in a Camaro or something, I'd paint the front clip because that fit in the garage. And then I'd tape it up the next day and back it in and paint the backside. And you're just learning, you're just learning everything. You don't know. So, and then I finally went to like a night class, like 80 hours of paint and 80 hours of like what you would read on the Bondo can, mud can, or a paint can, like, clean the surface and make sure whatever. That was kind of the class. So, And I was already, decent at doing it. I had my dad's jitterbug wood sander with wood sandpaper and mixing mud and, all that. But in this class, the teacher was a buddy of John Kosmowski, so House of Color. So he played one of the days when we weren't out in the shop. He played one of those old videos, and that dude's like the king of those videos. I mean, in the 80s, and
did he yell at you about what materials to use?
Oh yeah,
that's when he brought the marbleizer. I did a class when we were at the body shop with him, and it was me and Chad went out there. And it's like, all right, so you're going to spray this and you use 940. No, you use 1047. And just scream constantly. Oh, all right, dude, fucking relax.
Talked to you about droplets out of his paint gun, how you adjust it. And then, he's good for that. Yeah. But, so I saw that video and that really triggered. It was like, that looks cool.
There was so much cool shit back then. The colors were wild, and they were painting, marlins, and the bowling pins, and so much like crazy colors and wild things that they were painting.
Yep.
It was just, you don't have a lot of that like crazy excitement. Most everything's a little more
just followed
tasteful and
Lucky Strike. And you get all the cool colors and all the cool things.
Yeah.
But then through like the 90s, like Cadillac, or the old Monte Carlo SS with that burgundy, you had those colors. So people it was too hard to spray the candies. And then, so they got into these other colors and everybody would just spray that. And I just always liked those candy colors. And one of my buddies, I painted a little, I don't know if it was a Geo, just a little teeny car. And he's like, oh, I want to do it this green color. So we actually did, it was PPG Radiance, but it was this candy. So I had a bunch of it. I painted a couple cars, but it's fun to do it because the colors, how they turn out. Well, people go, wow, this Cadillac burgundy is plenty good. Well, then you do a real candy and then you put it next to that and it's like, story. It's no way. It's totally.
I always like that Honda Del Sol green. Remember that back in the day?
Oh yeah.
You've brought that up many a times.
Yeah. It just sticks with me. I did a go-kart body.
Did you?
Like a fan body. Remember we painted
that
thing?
It was the green zigzag stripe and purple back.
I don't know where the purple came from, but the Del Sol green, that one was just always, I'll probably paint a car that color one day for myself.
Did you have
Fiero, maybe. We'll see.
You have a Swatch watch that matched that car?
No, I do now.
Shoes
I like the neon.
Is that or PT Cruiser Gold?
Yeah, the PT Cruiser Gold.
That worked on like Model A's and traditional hot rods.
Yeah, some of those. Yeah. You always like, oh, what color is this? What's this off a Hyundai? But it looks different on a 38 Chevy than it does on a Hyundai. But yeah, those colors. And then we did there was that one picture of there's a yellow Dodge. It was a 50 Dodge that this guy. And that was like one of the first big cars we did. And the guy's like, his name was Frenchie Fergie.
That was just his name. His birth name?
I don't know if it's his birth name.
Frenchie Fergie.
But he was an older dude. He built a bunch of cars. So there's the GSTA, which is the Gopher State Timing Association, all the drag race associations. So those guys, there's a show every spring. It's like our little Oakland Roadster show. But this guy, it was already sectioned and chopped and the Carson top was made, but it was just scabby, had like a 340 in there.
That the way that I know it's only 2000, but that's still 20 something years ago, but the picture quality and that car, it looks like it would be like a Winfield's or like a Valley Custom.
It does.
Like it just
like you could say you added color to it. Right?
Exactly.
It was
this was 52.
Right.
And that's my dad's Plymouth there next to it. But yeah, so this guy came, we had just started and I used to work for this other guy, Ron Gorell, that he's done a lot of nice cars up in Minnesota. Now he works for like one customer, but,
that's cool. Little Hoss.
Yeah, that was that Little Hoss. That's the dude from Bonanza. That the big guy.
Yeah. He
was sponsored that car. So that's an actual Fred Gibb car. That guy.
That's a cool ass car.
The guy who owned that found it on but in the Auto Trader or whatever. And they're like, yeah, old race car. It's red. And the door jambs are purple. So originally they had those purple Camaros. So it was, and then the dealer that Fred Gibbs Chevrolet was a dealer. And it's not as big, but like a
Earl Scheib.
They painted it in the thing, but it's like a Yanko.
Okay.
Yanko, just a bigger name. But here, this had a Cross Ram 302 with a fiberglass hood, fiberglass inner fenders. One of the Herb Fox on the back, that's a salesman. And he used to drive that car and like street race it. But then that car has like 22 records or all this
That's
stuff.
crazy.
So, and this is all new. We just had opened the shop, but they took the wheels off a Corvette off the dealer, and that guy would just race. And then but this guy had all kinds of paperwork. So it was originally that purple car. So when he read that and he found it, then he went bought the car, and we, the rear quarters are all hammered up because I think originally on the door it said Mighty Mouse. Like somebody had a big block in there and called it that. But these were like the first two big cars we had. And that yellow one, the guy, he built a bunch of cars. And he says, here's what I'm going to do. You get this body work all done. And he got in 2000, so he got the yellow Volkswagen Bug color, the new Bugs. And then he went and got the white diamond pearl for like an Escalade. And he had them double the pearl amount in there.
Of course.
So he says
a little bit is good and too much ain't enough.
It's easier to match that way.
Two of the worst colors.
So he says, he goes, okay, what I want you to do is, paint the yellow and then paint the pearl on top. Everybody dumps them together or something and you just lose the pearl. So paint that on top of it in the inner coat clear. And so we did that, and you guys know Mike Jensen. He's got a couple of So Mike was working with me then. Okay. We were buddies and working together a long time. So we're in there, and we're painting that car one day, and we're in there double gunning it, and I've got a black lab, Diva, this dog I had, and she's in the shop all the time. Well, we're in there. And I think we're starting to clear maybe. And Mike goes, God, get the dog out of here. There's black hairs everywhere in this thing. And I go in there, and there's just everywhere. I'm like, the dog's always around. We never have. Well, I don't know what's going on. It's a cross draft booth, just an old booth that was in that building. And I look at him. I'm wearing these new jeans, and they're not like pre-washed, acid washed, whatever. They're like work jeans, like a piece of canvas. And my hand's wet, and I rub my hand on there, and I'm like, oh shit, it's my jeans. So we go around and pick with tweezers and razor blades, and I'm picking hairs out of this whole car. Then I got to take my pants off, and I'm in there in my boxer briefs.
That's dedication.
Oh yeah. And it's like you already had clear on it. You can't stop, and you're going. And so my legs are hairy legs, all just full of clear coat later.
That's the kind of stuff should be on your Instagram page. That'll get
followers. That's on the
OnlyFans.
That's in the link tree on the top.
Yeah, you got to pay for that. Right. You ever see that? There's a meme with a guy he's painting. All he's got is the little belt for his mask, and he's not wearing nothing. It's hot.
Didn't they call you Little Hoss in high school? Mm-hmm. I thought no, it was somebody else.
Yeah, somebody else.
I'd heard somebody had the nickname Little Hoss.
No, we didn't call anyone Hoss up
here in the north. So that yellow car, we had it at the show, and then that's when the House of Color rep, this guy Jeff Eddington, he's like, who painted this car? Because he had car, but not a lot of people were using House of Color. He goes, I'm over here. I got a white 55 Chevy in the House of Color booth. So I met him, and we just hit it off, and we were waiting. And then this was another guy, this Paul Bath. So this is like, it's got the Hemi. He's had the thing since, years.
Steel car?
Yep. Steel car, all steel car. Another shop was doing it, and they got it all, built, and then we painted it. So he came out and did pictures and stuff while we were doing that. But I think he was out at he's got like the Wally trophy. Mm-hmm. He got one of those at, I don't know if he was down Bowling Green or something at some big car show, and they'd go nuts over that car. I think Big John Mazmanian stopped him one time in his golf cart, and he ended up building another one of those. But that Willys was a big deal, and that thing was at back to the 50s for years, and then that guy passed away, and then they sold it to some other guy, and that guy still would bring it back. Out. Yeah, but that was a big deal. That was like a feather in our cap. This that one there, the Medusa, is so the guy that owns that was the guy who had Steve Anderson is his name, who had Frankenstein built, or Frankenstewed, the purple.
I remember that.
Yeah,
vaguely.
That's like the first big 6-figure crazy car. Huh. It was, I mean, it was way before I was doing it. It was in the 90s, I think. And, so yeah, he had that done, and that was like one of the cars that would be at all the World of Wheels shows. It would travel to all of them. It'd be the one, like Radical Rod was like that. It's
like the one you get sick of seeing because it just kept fucking going.
And but it was pretty crazy. It was it was kind of before the air ride days, so it had hydraulics on it. Had like Lambo doors on it.
On that 32?
No, this was on that Frankenstewed.
Okay.
It was pretty. A lot of people will know what that car is, the older one. But then, that black one. So, and that guy's Minnesota guy too. So we hooked up with him through just different. Yeah, there it is.
Yeah, I remember the car.
And we
actually kind of cool.
It's a pretty cool car. It's kind of wild, but the that 32. We end up doing like a Hot Rods and Custom Stuff frame. Remember those guys from?
Yeah.
But they had this little swoop.
Yeah, I remember they were doing that years back.
And it was like a 33 kick up in the front.
It had a big sweeping kick up in the front.
In the front, yeah. And so we built that 32, and then the Frankenstewed, when he was out on the show circuit, that's when he met Chip. So Chip gave him like a design award for that car, and they became buddies. And actually Steve was older, like Chip's dad, Sam's age, and he used to drive the drag car for Gopher State and the clubs and stuff. So when we got done building that car, and it was all in bare metal at our shop, and it was just when Overhauling came out. So Chip was up for Steve got him to come up to that Gopher State show. And then, so he came over to the shop and then kind of toured and whatever. And then he came back the next year when we were done, and he put those flames on it. So he came out, and that was 05. So it was probably October. He was out laying out flames.
Damn.
And he's on the plane, and he's drawing on a little thing. And then he goes, hey, you got a Kinko's around here? I said, yeah, there's just one up in, Maple Grove, this city over. So we go over there, and he's touching up the drawing, and then he's printing them out on the bigger thing till he makes a deal. And we're in there, and there's another paint guy and his wife. She does airbrush stuff. And they're at Kinko's. They do like a class for airbrushing. So they're making these posters. So, and they're bikes and cars and all that. So Brian's, they're down doing a thing. He looks up and, across there, he goes, Chip. He goes, hey, how you doing? Chip Foose.
I come to this Kinko's all the time.
Hangout.
He goes, we're doing some flames up at Vescio. So you should stop by. And then, so we're all laying out the car and doing stuff. Midnight at the shop, and I had the guy with the wheelies come out. We had people, we're like, he's coming, we're gonna do whatever. There must have been 60 people, just people showing up with bikes, and it was.
Chip
We're
get an
like-
appearance fee for that?
Yeah,
I'm sure he loved, I'm sure he loved
this
that when
was-
he's trying to
this was
concentrate on
this was pre
laying this stuff out.
appearance fee, but yeah, and that dude can just work. All those people buzzing around, and we were just in the booth. It's most kind of stayed out, and he just went away, you know, cruising along, laying out stuff. And then Steve, the owner of the car, he goes, well, Chip, it's 3 a.m. He's like, okay, let's get grab the mask. Let's mask this off. He goes, it's 3 o'clock. He goes, okay. Let everybody go. He's going to stay at a little hotel down the street. Go, and we'll be back here at 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock. So everybody, you know, I live like a mile away. So we just go kind of close our eyes and then get up. But I mean, it was 3 o'clock in the morning. There's still all these people just hanging around.
Crazy, man.
You know, and then, yeah, we went, and he gets up in the morning, comes right over.
I hear he works like a mule, like
Oh,
he's
yeah.
like a freak of nature
Like
when it comes
nothing.
to.
I mean, just like you see them, you know, when you, and everybody gets crazy, the overhauling stuff, that's where everybody knows them. And I'm like, why, you knew them before all that, you know, reading magazines, probably not in high school, not that long ago, but so like I had one of our other buddies saw him at some show, and everybody comes up and talks about, oh, here's my car, I'm working on it. And he's talking about some other thing that Chip's working on that nobody knows about, probably like that Caprice or the biscuit and whatever it was that and
Imposter.
then he pops up and he's like, oh yeah, we're doing this. And it's just something a little different than what, you know, every mom and pop that now knows who he is. But yeah, so now we see him and then we had it out at SEMA that year. The car's called Medusa because Steve had this guy, he goes, I'm gonna have an artist make these headers. So they've got these crazy headers. And we're trying to think of a name for the car. And at our shop, we have the whole building now, but there was a garage door place next to us, and that guy would come over all the time. And the car's sitting there all just black, like either an epoxy with the headers on there, looking from the front. And he walks in, and we're trying to, you know, think of a name. And this dude just walks in and goes, oh man, that car looks like Medusa with the snake hair.
That's it.
And I'm like, oh, I called up Steve. I said, hey, you know this? And first off, Steve's like, nah, well, wait a minute. So
Did you present it in that same voice? Because I think that would have sold it.
I make a lot of voices. But it's like, I said, well, it's a deuce. So you have Medusa.
Oh, see, I didn't even pick up on that.
And then, the way he spelled it, he's like, oh, it's made USA. Made in the USA, whatever. So
There's a lot to unpack there.
Oh yeah. But he's a like a lithographic printer. So
No idea what that means.
yeah, did all this crazy, but he used to work with like Andy Warhol. He's got all these stories, and sometimes it's like
stories.
It's like, is that true? And I'm like, I don't know, but
Andy Warhol.
but then somebody comes up and
Touchist.
No.
But that's the theme with all these Hollywood people nowadays. I thought that's where you go.
He was a partier.
Yeah, into some drugs and
He got
whatnot.
down. Yeah, crazy stories about Andy Warhol.
yeah.
Share some. I'm familiar with his work, but I haven't heard about
Just
the
a
man
big time
himself.
partier, like
Is it like
love
Lebowski
everybody.
party?
Like
That's
Studio
that's what comes to
54
mind.
days.
Yeah.
Jackie Treehorn. Is that?
So throughout this time, you're making yourself, you're doing all this paint work. At what point are you transitioning into like full builds? I'll handle it all. Just bring it to me and let me do it.
Well, the 32 was a full build. That might have been the first full build. Like we would build early on in that other shop. We did a Nomad for my dad's used to work for the city of Minneapolis. So he had all these blue collar truck driver guys, and they had stuff. So this guy, Tiny, not a little guy.
Yeah, never is.
So he
Surprised
had
to do a 32.
He had this nice 55 Nomad, and we did all the body and paint. He did motor and interior and all that stuff. But the 32, we did that whole car. That was kind of a big deal to do the whole thing. And then that yellow one that we did, that was kind of done, but kind of like and somebody's mudded the piss out of it and set it aside, and a lot of stuff wasn't finished or whatever. So we had to finish that. But, and we used to send stuff out. Oh, this guy would do some motor work. And it's like, they never are on your same level or time frame or just commitment or something. So then we started doing, and early on, it was, at first it was just me doing, when I actually opened a shop, my son who works there now, he was 6 months old, and I had worked at a bunch of places, regular body shops, and then just learned that way. And then, he was like 6 months old, and I was like crawling out of my skin to do something. And I always wanted to
get out of the house. Is that what you're saying?
No, it's a different job, like a more,
got it,
whatever. So I'm like, I gotta
all of our reasons.
Yeah.
Do what we do.
So
this has been your episode.
Yeah. So, then we, start the shop, and you got to do whatever, and I worked for that dealership where I was when I got sick. And then afterwards I had gone back there then I'm over there like, hey, and these guys are, here's a Toyota Corolla. Can you paint half the car for $150?
I get all that. We've got this story. You when you're in business and you're making the nut, you got a family to provide. If a guy comes in and says, weld up this damn pintle hitch for my tractor, whatever, you're going to weld the fucker up. Right. I get that.
Yep.
You're talking about painting cars. You talked about, it seems as though at that early age, you're doing a lot of partnership stuff where a guy comes in, he's like, I've got this vision. I want your labor resources, but I'm also going to drive the ship on a lot of stuff, and we're going to collaborate on some design. That's a far cry from, I'm going to take a Mercedes, cut the fucking floors out of it, put a chassis on it and wide body it, and we're going to go race the thing. I'm trying to get to that point there. When does a guy come and be like, you know what? I see what you can do. You're talented. Roll. Not you do that. I want you to put the pearl over this part, put 4 coats of clear because it's better than 3, because I talked to my buddy down at the thing and he told me that 4 coats is the way to go. Or I'm going to hire an artist to build these headers. But there's a big transition time, and sometimes it's a slow fade, and sometimes it's just that one guy that trusts you, to where it's, I'm hiring you to do your thing. My job is to pay the money. Your job is to make it cool.
Build the thing.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah. And it's like just as you say, that guy with that yellow car early on, I think we did that for $5,000. And he's like,
and his input.
Yeah. And he's like, well, I don't know you from Adam, but so I'm not gonna pay you.
No.
This guy money, the guy I used to work for. It's like, well, he gets money. So yeah, once you get down, then we have that, and it's at SEMA, and you're, so
you got to build that business card and build the reputation.
So it's not an overnight success where it was just like we transitioned from this to, hey, guess what? It's like,
And then, but it takes that for someone to go, oh yeah, okay, I saw that car. What
did the guy with the 4-door Mercedes see that brought him to you?
So actually we were at that show in Minneapolis, that Gopher show. And we had early on, we had World Wheels. I'd put like 10 cars in there or 5 cars. So we had a bunch of cars, and not even the owner of that car was there. A guy that worked for him or was a buddy of his. And he just was looking at all the cars, and he goes, I got a guy that wants to build something, whatever. And, but we just represented well enough that he goes, and, being able to talk to somebody. I said, there's all kinds of guys that can do body work in their garage, and, but if you're clean enough and you can smile and collect some money, but some guys are just like, I don't like it, get out of here or whatever, but so then we met that guy and just kind of, you get together, you chat and make sure everything's, you're on the same page. And And then when they're excited, and then you're excited, like, yeah, this is a cool idea. We got all kinds of ideas.
So that was he wasn't one of those guys that wanted a car, didn't really know what he wanted. He knew exactly. I want certain year 4-door Mercedes.
Not 100%. He wasn't sure at first, but then he started to. But he had that. My dad had this car, and so it was trying to.
Got it.
That car is like a vehicle to promote his motor.
Okay.
So he would, that was like a hobbyist motor that they would build or something. But yeah, he didn't know exactly at first, but then he had that vision, and then we just start collaborating together. Like, okay, let's do this, but let's make it real high end. It's not going to be the dirty race car because when you look back, everybody's done the red pig, even the newer ones. They've got tons of them that are all stickered up and they just all look the same. So I'm like, okay, let's make it something you can show, but you can still run it. And
did you know it was going to have that impact when you were building it and kind of
like partway through, we were like, this thing's kind of different, and that's when, like you say, now it's getting hard. All these different cars, it's like everybody's trying to be different, and who knows? But you got to be careful how crazy you are, because we had a rendering, and the flares,
it's possible,
weren't that big on the front. They were like little flares in the rendering. If you see that, and it's like, that's cool. Well, then as we were fitting these wheels in there, it's like, these flares are going to have to be huge. And then Marshall was building them. We showed that whole car in bare metal at a World of Wheels, one of the last World of Wheels in Minneapolis.
So who's this Marshall dude? Is this like your metal guy or
Marshall Sterrett, the Whiz. Okay. So he used to work for Lakeside Rods and Rides for Roger. Gotcha. And then he was moving up. So there's a powder coat guy. He's passed away, but in Blooming Prairie, southern Minnesota, is a powder, and he would go down there to ride. He would go to all the hot rod guys. He was a big hot rodder. And he was up picking up a frame from us and doing that. And then like the next week he was down, and Marshall was his girlfriend was getting a job up here. So he was moving. So luck have it that the powder coat guy was up, and he just had our place, and then next week he's down there, and Marshall's like, any shops up there? I gotta move up there. And he goes, I was just at, what you call it? So he called, and that dude can make anything. He came up, and working for Roger, building tons of cool stuff. And we've had him up there for like 10 years. That, all that first stuff is mostly all me. Mike was there, and I've had little guys, but then when you bring in
like a heavy hitter,
you bring in this guy, and he changes the whole deal. It's like we had a Firebird we were working on, and he'll go, well, you want Riddler gaps on this, or you want, what do you want? And it's like, I'd come in the next day, and
if you said no, I don't want Riddler gaps, was that met with, I guess you just want me to fucking hack it then?
That'll come up.
Fine. We'll just leave
but like an in between, like
there's an in between.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
that's a difficult conversation to have.
It is, because you're like, listen, this guy, he wants nice, but he doesn't want $2 million nice.
Straight gaps.
Right. But just like, that's something different than we were concentrating on, or I would, but the other guys, weren't in that level. So, you add in guys like that, and it brings your whole shop level up.
A guy like that, does that make you feel more confident when you're like selling a job like that? You've got that Mercedes guy, and you know what you're going to do to it. So now you have the resources to get that done.
Right. And even with the Mercedes, not that we knew 100%, but we just were going to do it. But now as business in the last few years, it's way different. I'm 52 now, and I started when I was 28, and started like on a shoestring budget with no knowledge other than dedication to do it. So then later, then you come up and you're like, oh, and I've heard people go, well, I got people smarter than me working for me. That's the way to do it, whether it's someone smarter or more skilled or whatever. And then I'll allow them to,
Of course.
to do that, like, what do you guys think?
If I'm the smartest or most talented one in the room, we're fucking
we're in trouble.
Yeah. Always needs to be.
Big trouble.
You have someone to steer the ship.
Major. We're fucked.
Major point.
How big a trouble would you say?
Oh my God. It's an exuberant amount of trouble. Immeasurable amount of trouble we're in.
But yeah, the goal, and to start to switch to these, to doing the higher end cars.
Right.
And it takes to get those customers, and they have to see something else. And the other trick is like, I told my wife, she does all the social media stuff. She had corporate jobs. So we joke she had the real job all those years. And then through COVID, where she was working kind of changed, and it wasn't, she did these conventions and things, and then they weren't. So she was like, well, maybe I can, just come run the shop stuff. Cause I've had people in the office and they just, they're data entry and answering the phone and whatever. Well, then, so a few years ago, she came in and, it would have been, sometimes I'm like, oh man, it would have been nice to have her here all this time before, but she learned all this stuff in her corporate,
Of course.
type of job. But it made a world of difference. So this, SEMA this year was, they had a panel with Chip and Troy and Ring Brothers and all that stuff. And Troy was talking,
All the old timers.
yeah. And he's like, he goes, we probably didn't make any money till our wives started coming in doing the books, which was funny because I looked right at my wife and was like, yeah, that's kind of, because he goes, I'd get an invoice, $100. I'm not going to charge them. I'll charge them 80, which there's a level of that you have to do.
Yeah, to some extent, of course.
Because it's, it's not, lawyers get to charge every 15-minute phone call.
Do they bill you for billing?
Do they ever feel bad? Or they ever like, I know I was kind of mumbling for a little bit there and like I went off track. So I'm going to knock like $7,000 off that last invoice.
Send the bill. What are you going to do about it?
Yeah.
I would have to say, like, to your point, you're talking about the wives coming in, making more money. So I bet you the lunches are way better too.
Oh,
The fucking sandwiches out of this world.
now you're getting in trouble. So
No women listen.
actually,
They stopped after like the second episode.
actually my dad, he's retired, but we had, his cousins own a Italian restaurant since like 1956. It closed before COVID, but so he's retired and he likes cooking. So like once a month we'll have sausage and peppers or some pasta or, just get all the guys. It's very family oriented.
Yeah, that's good.
All the guys, we don't like toxic people in there or whatever. It's like someone doesn't last long if they're.
How many guys do you have at the shop?
There's like 10, 11 off and on. And then, so my son, who was 6 months old, he's 24. He's there full time. He's one of the big mud guys and he's good. He's learned
That's
from, I got a guy, Gary, he's not there right now, but, Marshall. So he's learning under those guys. I learned, I'm starting with fixing Toyota door dings.
Is your dad involved too?
No, just support wise, but he was when he was younger, he was a car guy. He always had a couple cars.
But you got, grandpa,
Whole
dad,
family.
son.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And my
mom's there.
my wife's in there. My daughter just graduated. So she's there. It's crazy how all this time and how fun it is and nice it is. And everybody works together. Some people are like, oh, how's that working with your wife? I'm like, it's actually good. And the guys, you know, she's been contracting for another company, you know, like what she did before. And the guys are like, when's your wife coming back? Because she gets people, she gets shit done. You know, she comes out with her, you know, it's like Excel spreadsheets and TPS reports. I joke about
the old TPS reports.
But
you gotta have them.
But she'll come out and it's like, oh yeah, that's actually a pretty good idea. Or metrics, and you know, she's like, listen, these are the customers that, you know, whatever. We have there's a auto, like a classic car sales right across the street from us, and we do some stuff with them, and then just a couple other guys that we do multiple things for. And she's like, all right, we're getting this place out there by us that have these crazy cupcake things, and they're good. So she's like, you're going to take these over and thank these guys and give them whatever for their business. And okay. All right. So I bring these over one day across the street, and then I come the next day, and they're every dude I walk by in the thing, they're, oh, hey, well, thanks for those little cakes, man. Those are good, whatever.
Dude, you better hope they're not listening, because you were taking credit for that.
So then as we're walking, and the main guy who owns the place, he's like, and we had a forklift that died on us a year ago. So we haven't had a forklift for a while, and we got it from that place before. They just like, so he's like eating the cupcake. Hey, you guys need a forklift? I'm like, oh, he goes, yeah, we're getting a different one. You can just have this one. The brakes don't work. It works. But so I'm like, well, hey babe, your cupcakes just got us a free, and we've been looking for like a used
Keep cranking out those cupcakes.
I'm like, so, but that's,
you know, you'd be surprised. A forklift it's a crazy vehicle, like how valuable they are, but how they're worth fucking absolutely nothing.
Oh, right.
You know, at the same time.
And this
like,
is an old,
you
like,
can't give them away. You can't get,
right.
If you go to buy
he gave
a
it
new
away,
one,
but it costs
you go to buy a new one,
cupcakes.
it's like $60,000.
Oh yeah.
You've got one that's like, maybe it needs a gasket, like a head
you
gasket.
haul it off?
Yeah, so I won't even take it. I mean, you could pay me to.
Like, there's a 4,000 pound lead weight on the back that we can recycle.
They never have brakes. So this one has a handbrake. The other one you just used to put the forks down, or you get good at driving.
Yeah, we had, it had a clutch and everything, and you'd have to like time it to put it back in reverse. You'd bounce it off the steel truck a little bit, just kiss it. And then,
Are you forklift certified?
Absolutely, I actually am. I've got a certification card right here in my pocket.
Of course you do, because you're talking about it. Anybody that's forklift certified, guaranteed to tell you about it.
Costs a lot of money to get that forklift certification.
A long, hard class.
Yeah.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Can you drive a 60-year-old one with no brakes?
Yeah, that's where you learn.
That's the difference.
Yeah, that's the stuff I could do pre-forklift certification.
Yeah.
Take down buildings with it, move fucking houses. You can move cars across the street onto Applebee's roof or front lawn.
Badass.
It's done. Do things you've never seen before on a forklift.
Back to you're talking about you had to put the work in, right? And you had to do what you had to do to get the customers, and it's a slow progression. We've talked about that 100 times on this podcast. I think it's interesting, and it's definitely something we don't want to glaze past. You talked about the yellow car, right? You did that for $5,000 or whatever.
Right.
You didn't do $5,000 worth of work. You got paid $5,000 to do the work that you did.
Right.
It's $7,000 worth of material.
Well, and you did the best you could, regardless of what you were getting paid. And then the next one you did the best you could.
That was the trick.
We've talked about it a bunch of times on here and about shops and trying to give the advice, because we've all done that. And I don't know if we've ever really articulated it the right way, because we've kind of just glazed past to saying you've got to do what you've got to do, right? It's a first impression. You know, you got one chance to make a first impression. You don't want to show up to a show and somebody be like, I'm not going to pay you X if that's all you can do. But you've also got the reality of a car costs what it costs to build, right? In the paint world, you know, when you're doing body work and paint work and stuff like that, you do have materials. You've got X that you've got to pay. And then the same thing on the part side if you're doing full builds. But you also have your labor equation, right? And especially if you or a buddy or it's just you and you're not paying yourself, there's so much stuff that you can do that doesn't cost the customer money that you know you're going to have to do to make the car a little nicer. If the guy's not going to buy the billet hinges because he doesn't have the budget for it, right? It costs $0 as far as buying something. It's just labor for you to spend all night smoothing those factory hinges out,
Sure.
right? And deburring them and making them nice. And it costs, I mean, you've already got the materials to paint the car, so you're not going to spend any extra materials to paint those hinges, right? But that might be the thing that sets that build over the top when somebody's walking through versus just having the, I know it sucks.
I see where you're going with it.
It's a fucking sacrifice. It's stupid to have to do that and spend all night long to do that. But if you're going to pay into your future, it's an investment into where you're going to be at. And fast tracking, the more that you do that, the faster you're going to get those customers that will recognize the work and the quality that you can put out. Because you can't grab every person that walks by and looks at that car and be like, hey,
Yeah.
I know you see some of the stuff, but those would have been better if I'd got paid more. And I can I could do way better than that if I got paid more. They don't see all that stuff. And the custom parts, right, are one thing, and that does make things, but there's also stuff that you can do that's just labor. Deburring a block, smoothing stuff out, that stuff like that, and just do what you can do to put your best foot forward. And I mean, I don't know. I think there is guys out there that are doing that right now, and I think we've talked about the younger generation.
I'm sure there's somebody listening to the podcast right now that's working late
that's not going to charge for it
for free. You know,
but
off the clock right now.
We say that it's for
to
free,
accomplish exactly. Well, yeah, right.
but it's
not.
You're going to get it. You're going to get it back
if you do it right.
With it,
if you do it right.
Yeah, that yellow car got the House of Color guy into the equation, which in turn then I got that other Willys, which lasted forever for us. You know, up where we are, they're like, oh, the Willys, oh, the Willys, yeah.
And just think, if you wouldn't have wore those new jeans, you might have actually made money on the $5,000 because you
spent all that time picking hairs out.
The key there, though, is that at some point the cycle needs to stop. You know, you
gotta start making money.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You pay into it long enough.
You get married, you bring your wife in, and then
she goes
around a little bit.
Well, so I would assume that's where you're at this point in your career. I mean, you're building another Mercedes. It's pretty over the top. Like, what's that whole transaction with the customer and that build process compared to the guy with the yellow Dodge?
Oh yeah, it's night and day, and it's years of learning too. So that Damien with the other Mercedes, when you come in and say, well, this Mercedes costs X. You know, this was like almost like research and development and all that. There's a lot into this car. So yours, it's a little farther along, you know, but it's still going to be a big number. And they're fine with that. You know, when they see it at SEMA and the 3M and you know, then you have that just adds to it. And people say it all the time. Oh, is that a SEMA car or a Barrett Jackson car? And I'm like, listen, not every car at SEMA is like this most ridiculous, perfect car.
Yeah, there's some junk.
Oh, I mean, there's
some really nice stuff.
There's all same with Barrett Jackson's another. It's like, well, not every one of those is like it's that a certain quality.
Yeah,
it's just
tough to be branded with just that general statement.
But that's people who don't ever go to SEMA or go to Barrett Jackson and
see it on TV and hear about it. Yep.
Like that's a Riddler car. I mean, that's a little.
So that dude,
deal.
I mean, that dude with the Mercedes, he knows what he's in for. I mean, that's like renderings. That's it's going to this interior shop. It's obvious it's getting this chassis.
Right.
So there's a set cost associated with that. It's getting a mass motor.
Yeah. And he's down here in Chicago and we're, you know, Marshall's working on those flares and he's like, like you send him pictures. I don't know. I'm going to come up. So he'll drive up or fly up or whatever. And then, you know, kneel down and stand there and we measure. And it's like, well, it has to be this to clear the wheel. Okay. Yeah. All right. So he's, you know, some guys are, you know, Josh, the guy with the 4-door Mercedes, he's kind of like, okay, you guys, you know, go, yeah, that looks good. And it just, you know, it's sometimes if you're like, just trust me, in the end, we're not going to put something goofy out. You know, I'm not going to let you tell me paint it brown with pink polka dots, you know, like you're telling, you know, like it's like, but, yeah, you have to, you switch to that different level. And then, and over the last few years, I've been learning it because I'm I like to help. Someone comes in and goes, "Oh, this shop did this, and it's a big mess." But I only want to do so much, and now it's just like we just don't have the time. It's so hard to say no to certain stuff. And there's, sometimes you can go, "Oh, we only do this top level and that's it. Get out of here, kid." But you can't really be like that. Right. One of the first, 6-figure cars we did, this guy came in, he's a scrap metal guy, but he has a good scrap business, trucks and all kinds of stuff. But he's like 70 years old on he's on a softball league. So he comes in and, they have their sanctioned.
Is that slow pitch, fast pitch? What are you talking?
I don't
The
guys are all slow.
I know shit.
So, but he comes in with the bat. They have like legal bats and illegal bats or sanctioned bats.
Oh yeah,
or
they
whatever.
cork those fuckers.
Yeah. So he's like, "All right, I got this bat here, but I need you to paint it to look like this bat." And that was the deal. They're cheating or whatever, And he's a good guy, and we did some other stuff for him. I'm like, "Okay, Butch, yeah, we'll do this." And and then some of the guys are like, "What are you doing?" It's $300 paint job on a bat. We got the dude putting the trademark and all the numbers and all this stuff on there.
It's probably a $3,000 bat paint job.
They go out there and they're
Just
dinging
cranking.
balls with it. But that guy comes back later and he goes, "When I was a kid, I wanted a 58 Impala convertible. And I never did get one." But this guy's had like a newspaper and he's got this. So he's like he's still working, but he's like in his retirement age. So we built him a $130,000 Impala convertible. And it's like, you can't just poo-poo everything that comes up,
You never know.
You never know. Yeah, you're doing oddball stuff. But it's like, sometimes, okay, this will be nice because we do something else with this guy. He picks up our scrap and whatever. But you'd be surprised what one thing turns into the next thing.
Never know.
Yep.
Yeah, that's probably one of the best stories of something turning into a car build. And we've had all sorts of stuff over the years. But just like you said years ago, it would be guy needs a fence post welded up, or the dude that works for the village has got some piece of exhaust that you just weld it up for him. I mean, sometimes you do it if it's the village, for your own personal reasons.
Yeah. And they come back.
May or may not benefit you in the future, but there's so many unusual things that come in the door, but none of them materialize here for a car build.
It's not like you want to try.
But you don't want to be. You don't want to be an asshole.
But I had so at one point too. Well, after in 08, 06, when everything kind of
when the world
shut down.
fell apart.
I think we had about 6 guys, and then and Mike was there with me, Jensen, and it just bottom fell. It just got slow. And I am not we would see someone open a sandwich shop and it'd be open for 6 months and it'd be closed. And I'd be like, "Dude, there's like $250,000 worth of ovens and shit in there. How do you do that? How do you, and I'm like, I got leases and I got loans and I don't care what happens. I'm going to, so that's the attitude you keep doing. But so I'm like, I have to get rid of everybody. And Mike's like, "Just pay me this and keep me on. You can't be here all alone." I'm like, okay. So we were like 2 peas in a pod for a while doing that. And we had one big customer that had this big panel truck, this 40 Ford Candy and big blower motor. It was another one. We were doing mostly the paint body stuff, but we had done that 40 Ford, that pearl beige one. That was a car we did before for him. And he owns a big business and he owns a bunch of businesses. So, and he's like, "All right, let's get this done." My accountant's yelling at me that I shouldn't be spending this kind of money, but it was right to the end. So, and that guy was, he would always check on, "How you doing? How's the business going?" And he built this huge thing from nothing. He was a single mom, raised him poor when he was younger. And so after the downturn and everybody's gone, well, then we actually started getting busier. By then I'd been around for 8 years. And it's like, well, but we're living off of credit and all that stuff. So as far as the shop goes.
Sure.
So that dude he's like, well, if you ever, got a gun to your head, just give me a call, whatever. So we're going to banks. My banker, we switched a bank that when we moved, and they're like, you got to know your numbers. And I'm like what numbers? I had, when I started, we had like the paper ledger, like it was the 1920s or something. And I had a quill pen.
Worked for years.
I'm like, this is easy. I got some money. I paid, and then you start paying employees and insurance and all that stuff, whatever. But so this banker hooked me up with this woman, just an accountant. So she came in and kind of helped and whatever. And then as we were going to banks, trying to get whatever to consolidate or a loan or what, but that was the whole deal. It's like they bail them all out and then the banks wouldn't give anybody any money. It's like, okay, great. So we went and talked to this, that customer, and he's like, I say, hey, this is what we're doing. We're busy, we're whatever, but I need to clean this up and, keep head above water until we get rolling again. And he's like, okay, what do you need? Whatever. And then, but he came in, he's like, I'm going to come in and show you what to do. So when you guys have your best piece of advice,
sure,
what you get. Well, mine was a whole cluster of it. So I was doing it, just do it. And it's, what we do is you would almost do it for nothing. We all know now, but it's like, well, I still build cars in my garage because I like it and I have a different job or something, but that's what you do. So this guy came in and he's got a big company. He rummaged through all the closets. He comes in, he puts computers. He's like, here's a computer here. Here's a computer here. Here's one here. Let's buy some more, get some equipment for the guys. And he builds a whole, like a billing system. Cause
this guy's coming in personally? Or is he bringing in like some of his people?
Just him. He just we had worked together and I get, close to people or you like to be friends, make someone happy. All this is about making, someone, I say, if I had a body shop, I deal with someone's problems all the time. If you have a hot rod shop, you deal with someone's dreams all the time. And if you keep people happy, they're happy. They should be, there's so many, it's like, hey, my car ain't done. Well, you ain't the only one in here. I got other cars. Well, you don't talk to people like that. The goal is for you to be, I always say, dude, these guys, they write checks better when they're smiling than when they're not. Not that that's the whole goal, but sure, it is. And if we want to stay here and come to work every day. So this guy came in and, we had a billing schedule and we had a whole book of and he was running these big companies, and he's the kind of guy that's like, all right, I'm going to bust Joshua's balls and Joshua's going to bust your balls. And, that just the hierarchy of the business. And every month he would come in and Marshall would, he was in the meeting and there was one other girl, but it's like, hey, Gary's coming today. You ready to get your ass chewed? And he would hold me accountable. And I'm like, but he did it for a certain amount of years.
Were you paying attention to the business side at all beforehand, or was it just kind of a cash flow? We've got X in the bank. We need to pay this.
No,
and just
not
chase
as,
it that way.
I was enough to do it, but you're always behind or you're always, it's tight. But I didn't know how to pay attention. That's the trick. Like I could learn hard knocks how to do all the work, the welding, the cutting, the painting, I can do that. But if anything, it was like, okay, I could have maybe gone to school for a little bit of business stuff, but which is good and everybody should. But I also believe, if you go to school too much, they go, well, this is how you do it. It lays out. It's like page 1, page 2, page 3. And then when you get into business, page 1 just burns up right away. You're like, well, this didn't go the way you said it was going to go. So if you don't know that, you don't, you don't know how deep the pool is. You dive in, you don't worry about whatever. But so that guy gave tons of good advice and I had to trust him and just, if I push back on any questions I had or something, but I'm like, this is the guy, he's up here and I'm down here. So I'm going to do as much as I can of what it is. So as much as he could do, and then he was kind of retiring. So then we had another customer that has he's a partner now. He's retired but we built a few cars so that we have this 52 Chevy that we're finishing up, and that's his. We've been working on forever. But he came in one day, Jeff Bustrom is his name. So he's my partner. And he came in one day with we're all sitting in the little makeshift lunch table, like a bunch of goons eating lunch. And he comes in and with his suit on, he worked for a big accounting firm, and he's got some parts for a little Honda, those little candy Honda dirt bikes from the 70s or whatever. And he comes in and everybody looks at him like, like the movies where you walk in the bar and they're like, oh. So he's like, hey, I got this dirt bike. I want to whatever. So I'm like, oh, okay, sure. And do this dirt bike. And then he's walking around the shop and looking around. And then he come the next day and we're doing stuff. And then he's like sending me pictures of cars. Hey, I'm looking at this Nova. I'm looking at this thing. And just same thing, from that little dirt bike grows into, now we built them, 3-4 cars, and we were good friends with him, hang out with his family and you just build these big relationships.
That's what it's about.
Yeah. But then those guys help you.
Yeah.
I think that was the same thing one time, Trepanier or something, like, yeah, we're building a thing for this president of this bank. And then he wants to retire and be like, well, I'd like to come hang out at the shop. And then when they're out there, they're like, well, you really should diversify this and do this. And you get that extra.
Well, it's key to, you got to be, none of us are that smart, right? That are in the hot rod industry, but you got to be smart enough to kind of just shut up and listen to some of these guys, because there's some incredible advice. I'd imagine that whole scenario there, I mean, you must look at that as being priceless. That had to have done an unbelievable amount of positive for your business, right? I mean, was that a turning point, right? You bring this guy comes in, and there's computers in, it's it's now a legitimate business.
Right. And now when people come in, and you build out billing points, there's filler work, there's paint work, there's material add-ons, there's welding supply, all this stuff where a lot of people, and even other shops, I'd see them and they're like, oh man, I need some money. I gotta make some bills up and send them out. And it's like you're making them off the top of your head. Now the guys actually sit down every week on a time, system, put in their stuff, and then I trim the fat and clean it up and send them out. But at least when the customer, I go, well, this is what we do. The guys, if they're working all week, if 2 guys are on there, a shop, I remember one guy used to bill you 40 hours a week. I'm like, you're the only one. How do you bill 40 hours a week? You get there at 9:30, you got to go pick up something. You're not working on that dude's car for, those are the ones that the car never gets done. The bill gets too high. And
what do you think the biggest change was that spun your business around? So we get a lot of shops that we deal with that are great, talented metal fabricators, car builders, painters, but they don't run the business side. And that's kind of where they're struggling. So there's I don't know, I feel like Roger from Ironworks putting on that business development class and trying to bring the industry up. Right. And I'm on the business side of it. So interested from that side, like what was the, 1 or 2 biggest things that you saw that turned the business around and started putting cash in the bank? And
that one big guy, Gary, came in, that changed the mindset. And actually when my wife came in a couple of years ago, because even what she was doing, she just had a more vested goal, and just seeing how other big corporations run, but just having control and money management and all that. but also hitting a level where we start to go, okay, we gotta do these cars, not these cars. And I still struggle with that because I have people that, oh man, you really got, you did this one before. Can you help me with this? But switching over to just having Mercedes and this 52, and then now we got another customer that has a handful of cars he wants to build. He's like, I want a collection, but I don't want to buy them. I just want to build each one. It's like, okay. And then concentrate on
the right jobs that. For the right people.
Right. Yep. And then, like you say, on the business side, or I still go out and sand stuff, and a lot of times like get in here and send these invoices out. But I like doing it, but I'm not doing it. I won't mud a whole car now. My kid's out there doing that. Yeah. And then
that's the whole reason for having kids, right? I mean,
yeah, like a farmer.
Free labor. So, does he get a paycheck, or that's just like dinner?
No, that's his job. I mean, he's there to take over, down the line. So, but like the Kosmosky story. I was at that class watching that video, which kind of triggered me into going that direction. So that gold truck that was up there, that was Kosmosky's, his last truck he's built. I mean, he's 85. He's done building trucks. So we helped him finish that one up. So during COVID, he was out. I had called and I said, hey, John, I know you don't have your shop with the booth. And I thought he was like ready to paint. I said, we'll help you out. Come and use the booth and we'll do a lot. And he goes, yeah, I'd like to do that. Come out and take a look at the truck. And it was like,
bare metal,
welded, fiberglass front fenders. And then somebody else bought a metal fender. So we helping him build the whole thing. He had the chassis and stuff done. But I look over one day and he would come out at like 10 o'clock and hang out. And I'd walk in and he'd be at the little lunch table with his coffee. I say, hey, morning. He goes, I'm getting right to work, boss. I just got to finish my coffee. I'm like, you're fine. But then he's over there with my son, who then was like 21. And I'm like, here, I watched this dude when I was 20 something in this class thinking, I'll get into this. And now it's come around this thing. And he's actually learning, John's teaching him stuff, showing him how to do stuff. And I'm like, that's a big, like to come all the way around that way, it's like, proud. And
if somebody would have came and told you that
at
21, you were watching that video, like, that's going to be teaching your son.
Right. And you're like,
yeah, whatever.
Yeah. He'd be yelling at him.
That's wild. That's wild.
So that was pretty cool.
Well, you took the best piece of advice out of the equation. So we got a limited standard questions now. We'll have to throw some curveballs in there. So first up, standard one we always do, favorite car movie and why.
All right. I think about this all the time because I hear them all. And American Graffiti is a good, as far as a movie and a storyline and all that stuff, that's good. But what I don't think I've heard anybody say is the Mad Max movies.
The original ones.
Right.
With Mel Gibson.
One came up recently. Yeah. Somebody brought up Mad Max.
Fury Road came up.
Yeah. And those are good too. We just went and watched the Furiosa one, which actually was.
Haven't seen it yet. It's all right. I'm waiting.
But
the original Mad Max, the first one. Yeah. The second one was okay. Third one was horrible. But yeah, the original Mad Max. It's. Have you watched that recently?
Not recently. No, years ago. I was a kid. I think last time I watched it.
It's wildly done. Like you can't believe. I mean, it's 70s, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But the crazy cinematography and the way they did stuff to try and evoke crazy emotion with stuff, because they don't really show gore, but they do stuff with camera angles, whatever, that like freaks you the fuck out if you go back.
There's a lot more thought into that movie than you think there is.
There's a lot of thought into it.
The Road Warrior, the second,
was a badass.
Oh yeah, he was good. But the Road Warrior, the second one has. I mean, that's when they got all the crazy.
Oh, they had bigger budget then.
Vehicles and all that stuff. But that was, as far as car movies go, that one's got a bunch of crazy cars and a lot of driving and all that stuff. But
clutch on the blower.
Turn it off.
Yeah.
But yeah, that American Graffiti, that's a good one. I mean, I was born in 71. That thing came out in 72. But I can remember
Where
one
were you
day
in 72.
that came on like the regular TV, way back we didn't have cable or whatever. And my dad's like, "Hey, Bubba, come here, watch this movie. This is a good movie." He's a car guy, and it was all about, and it came out in 72, and it was the theme of the movie was Where Were You in 62? So it was only like 10 years before that. And that, my parents were, graduated in 68. And so they did all that cruising and just, not that it's a car movie, but Back to the Future, I was like 14, 15. And
Back to the Future comes up a good bit.
That triggered me big time into just 50s stuff. Yeah. And I always liked cars. When I was a little kid, I'd paint my Hot Wheel cars and painting bikes. And I always thought of like having a business, even when you don't know about it. And my mom and dad both had jobs. And I remember when I was little, I'm like, do you ever want to be the boss, Dad? And they're like, no.
When you were painting your Hot Wheels cars, did you go like testers model paint, or did you know the tricks to the trade?
What were the tricks?
Fingernail polish.
Oh, I didn't have fingernail polish. My mom didn't wear a lot of fingernail polish.
You snag your sister's fingernail polish for a Hot Wheels. You want to talk about some deep gloss candies and pearls and stuff like that. You can't get that out of testers.
I was using the paint markers.
The paint markers?
Yeah.
Those were before. The paint markers were, I don't remember.
That
was after me.
Yeah, like 20 years later.
Like a little 57 Chevy and, with the fins. And I'd like scrape them all clean with a butter knife or something, get all the paint off. And then I was running the fins across like the concrete steps. So that was my first like custom. I was shaving the fins down. It was like, then the car was more shoeboxy.
I was clipping the roofs with side cutters and stuff.
Yeah.
My neighbor was
sticking M80s and it blow
back on. Yeah. Sand that down.
M80s went in the bigger die-cast semis.
Blew up a lot of die-cast cars.
Yeah. The backyard was a fucking graveyard. Oh my God.
That's kind of Mad Max.
A little bit.
If you were doing anything else for a living than what you're doing right now, what would it be?
I would probably be a chef or something, be cooking. My dad cooks all the time. And we grew up in that restaurant. We all worked there. It's, Italian style.
Yeah. I could seriously, it's like, I'd like to go get like the chicken Vesuvio, It's just
Vesio. Yeah. Chicken Vesio.
Chicken Vesio. Sorry. Yeah.
So, but
it's got a good ring.
It does. Yeah. I could see it.
Good stuff.
It does. I can see the name of the restaurant. Vescio's. That's.
Yeah, it was down in Dinkytown, which is right by the U of M. The university down there. So, but yeah, it was. 1956, and little pizza and spaghetti, and all the different generations. So growing up, being in there, it's like, how Italian are you? Well, I'm Italian enough that we had a restaurant. I don't know. I'd have to do 23andMe or something to figure out the actual, ratio. But that just makes it more, when you're doing
authentic.
Authentic, yeah. Authentic American Italian, whatever it is.
It's time for first car.
Think about it.
What year did you graduate?
I graduated in 90.
Okay. So 88 you were driving?
Yep. So
all right,
go ahead.
I got something.
We might be guessing.
Yeah. It's hitting me a little bit.
88.
I'm going.
Oh, okay. I've got one too.
It's a pickup truck, but it's
okay.
It's a pickup truck, but it's a smaller truck. I'm thinking it's a Dakota, like a Dodge Dakota pickup truck. I'm seeing it's red.
That's a horrible guess.
I think so.
No,
red Dodge Dakota pickup truck.
All right.
4x4 Minnesota.
You want to go?
I grew up in the city.
I go. You go.
I'm going Lincoln Mark 8.
Ooh, I was going town car.
I'm going
That's like the air ride one.
That's what Mom had. No, it was a Mark 7.
Yeah, Mark 7. That was Mark 7 was like a Corvette.
Yeah. was the 2-door
Yeah,
with
the seven,
molded in
seven?
trunk. Yeah, Mark
Yeah, it
7.
had the touch.
The 5.0 Mustang. Yeah.
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 That thing was badass. We got T-Bone leaving like 3rd grade, right out in front of the school.
Really?
Yeah, cranked.
Yeah, I think you're wrong on that one.
What do you?
I'm just with the Italian thing. I'm going late 70s Lincoln.
You think Tony Santucci style?
Town car. The fucking what was the one I got you?
Oh, yeah.
I was
Yeah, that was the
I was
Cartier. That was a
I was thinking
79.
Torino the whole time, but then when it went 88 threw me. I had to jump modern. I was thinking Torino, 70s Torino the whole time. But I'm sticking with Lincoln.
Yeah,
you're going with square body Dodge Dakota,
Yeah.
and you're going with town car.
Yeah.
76 Buick Riviera.
Oh, that's
Not far off.
It's close,
I
not
said late
far off.
70s
It's
big
close.
Lincoln. Yeah.
2-door, 4-door.
2-door.
yeah.
Yep.
So
Yeah, you're
we,
kind of right.
we shot around in a 2-door Lincoln and a freaking town. Yeah, we're
The Lincoln, that's close. I mean, that's just what it is. Yeah.
Is that like the velour padded seat stuff?
Oh,
like
yeah.
the
That's
extra?
comfy. It was
You fall
cool.
asleep while driving regularly.
That's a
But
good-
you
that's a-
could. I mean,
that's a
that
good
just,
looking car.
that was,
What color? Brown.
it was silver, like gray. Real. Yeah, I bought it off of one of the little lots in the city.
Silver, some maroon interior.
No, it was like a blue interior.
Yeah, I was gonna go blue.
Really, blue with silver outside? That's a rare one. I would think
And then-
of maroon all day long with a
And
silver
then,
outside.
but then as I had that.
Did you ever
and
jump
I-
it?
No,
You can't jump
but
something
I
like that.
immediately cut
Railroad
off.
tracks. You can jump
Yeah.
anything.
Dude, that's the least
Way too
forgiving
big,
car to
yeah.
jump.
Oh,
ever.
yeah, that's not a.
The overhang from the front wheelbase
Oh,
forward
yeah,
on
that's
that.
a lot.
And that's nose heavy. That's
I think I brought it straight home.
tremendous amount of damage.
I brought it straight home and cut off the perfectly good exhaust, and then coat hangered on a,
little cherry bomb or
cherry
something.
bomb on there, and then at one point I spray painted the whole thing. Like the hood had a big, remember
Skull and
MTV,
crossbones.
the MTV logo, which was
Huh.
I was there when MTV started. So
So you were getting all.
I was getting all
action.
yeah.
So if you were like 10 years later, you were like a duct tape backpack kind of guy. You were like in our school.
It had there was an old TV show called Adam 12. It was like a cop show from the 50s. It said that on the side. In the trunk, I had a thing that said Elvis is in my trunk. And then the MTV
So you were a
thing,
customizer way back.
oh
in
yeah,
the
I was
day.
way early. And but yeah, I had a big 455 in there, and
Well, that
Go
ties
bombing
right
around.
into one of our next questions.
Uh-oh.
With all that spray painted on the side, tell us about your favorite police encounter.
I don't really have many police encounters. I was thinking about that today.
You were in like the city of Minneapolis? Is
Yep.
it? Okay.
Yeah, right in Minneapolis. And I grew up in a time, I mean, it's the hood, but it wasn't so much, but by the time we were in high school, and I went to a school called Patrick Henry, but it's in the city. And I was, so one night I was coming from working at the restaurant and then driving to a suburb through the city and then to a suburb to a buddy's house there where they were partying. You close the restaurant and then go out. So I wasn't drinking or nothing, but I got pulled over. It's just kind of middle of the night. And I got my leather jacket, like biker leather jacket.
MTV on the hood.
Yeah. And I don't even know if I was driving that car or not, but so the guy pulls me over and then he wants me to get out of the car and, just so he could see me walk and what. I go, hey, what are you doing? I'm just going to a buddy's house. I just left work or whatever. So I get out of the car and I'm following him. He's looking at my thing and, my license. And he doesn't check me or nothing, but he's like, oh, yeah, where do you go to school? I'm like, oh, Patrick Henry. And he stops and looks back and he like taps my pockets. You got any guns or knives or nothing, do you? I'm like, no, not tonight. But yeah, that's about it. I don't get in too much
Yeah, you're
trouble.
clean.
Too nice of a
Clean,
guy.
clean.
I don't have any good stories.
If a guy comes in tomorrow to the shop, talks to your wife first and asks to speak to Bo and says, I got unlimited budget. I want to put the car industry on its ear. I want to build the baddest shit ever known. What do you build?
And what chassis is it on?
Well, that's given.
That's a given.
You see, he started with a Mercedes with one chassis manufacturer, and now he's doing the second Mercedes on a different. So
We're trying them all out. No, I think we know where we're going. I don't know. People always ask me what's your favorite car or whatever. And it's hard to tell. I'm all over the map. I'm a big, from back in the day when I was younger, before all this, I'm a big 50 Merc guy, the chop, cool, that kind of deal. But trying to be like, let's put the industry on its ear. I don't know what, the Mercedes is not close, but it made a big stick up, they put that on the Good Guys cover.
Right.
And
So
they're like,
maybe
that's just for Camaros and 32s.
maybe
So
a 50 Merc, like Cobra recreation. Marion Cabretti, maybe.
God, I'm so sick of hearing about that.
Yeah. It was he opened the door.
Yeah.
The door was open.
That is a good one.
No, it's not. It's a horrible car, a horrible movie.
Maybe a
and
little more
horrible
like
plot.
kind of pro touring-ish.
But that's
do the
perfect.
wheels out of billet.
Those horrible movies.
Still has that
they got
Cobra,
all the,
jet kind of hood, but you fab it out of aluminum.
No, it'd be bad.
Did
Slick out the door jam. Like,
Did anybody tell that story about that?
Riddler
When they
Gibbs.
built those cars?
No.
So I think the dude who built those cars was the same dude who built like the Jaws shark. He's a movie guy.
I could see the inspiration.
And they built like
Yeah, he built a lobster car.
same color. But they built like a bunch of them, for the movie. You got to crash them. You got to do whatever.
Jumped the railroad tracks a few times.
And I don't know if it was Hot Rod or something, but I read a story and they're talking about, and they're movie cars, so they're built like whatever. But I think they went to pick them up, and the dude's in the office, like talking, gonna write the check for all the cars or whatever, and he's like stalling, and they're loading all the cars up, and they took off without paying for them.
Really?
Yeah, you'd have to look that up, but I mean, it's just a cool, I don't know if it's a cool story, but it's an interesting, like, yeah, I built these cars and they needed them by this day. And then they came out, and while they were dinking around in the office with me, they stiffed them. And
Oh, fuck that. I'd show back up on the set. Here to see Marion.
Yeah, I'd love to get my hands on one. I wonder if there's like some of Stallone's glasses still like under the seat in between the.
You're just fucking with me now because there's no possible way you could like that
and
car. It sucks.
a box of matchsticks. You
Yeah,
had the matchstick like the toothpick.
Yeah.
It's super cool.
I mean, the dude did Rocky, which was like a crazy, awesome.
Yeah, Rocky's
movie.
a badass. Marion Cabretti looks like he'd be sliding out the back door of a bar that you shouldn't be in.
Yeah, kicking some ass.
Yeah.
Right.
Down the tool shed in Wrigleyville. Exactly. Tell me I'm wrong.
It's pretty good.
Village people.
Pretty good.
Thanks, Bo. It's been
right.
absolutely amazing.
That was fun.
Yeah, man. Thanks for coming out, dude. Pleasure hanging.
Parlay some mishaps into some good stuff.
Oh,
Yep.
absolutely.
Thanks for
I'm gonna
the
get in there one way or another.
amazing bourbon. Thanks to your customer.
Yeah.
Instagram at Vesio's Customs. I'm gonna go ahead and
Try to
spell
spell
it.
that out. Yeah.
That's gonna be at VESCIO Customs, spelled the right way. CUSTOMS. Facebook, Instagram. What show are you gonna go to next?
Des Moines, Good Guys, and then Columbus, trying to get that car done for that. So it's been a couple, we got the Mercedes out there, and then we had the other Mercedes. We're like, we're going to pound that one out next year. And it just doesn't, so hopefully we get some of these set and.
So if you're listening to this right now, it's going to be very close to Columbus coming up. You might want to get out there and check out the new shit that Bo's bringing.
What are you bringing to Columbus and Des Moines?
That's a 52 Chevy that we've been working on. So this is that Jeff, my partner. This is a car from He's had it. His father-in-law bought it years ago, and his wife. He tells a story about. He goes, yeah, they were farmers, and he goes, yeah, my wife. They went and picked up a cow. She sat in the back seat with the cow as he brought it home. So now this car will be all. We're not doing it like cow hide upholstery. Iowa, but
close.
Different accent.
Thanks for listening to Oil and Whiskey with the Roadshow Shop and Ironclad Original. If you like the show, be sure to leave us a rating, review, like, follow. Just keep listening. See you again next week.